Timothy Chen. He's only been with us for about 2 years. He followed protocol, checked the signatures against our files, verified the notary information. Everything appeared legitimate. Can I see the original documents, not just the scanned copies? Absolutely. In fact, I'd like you to come to our office Monday morning so we can review everything together. If your signature was forged, we need to document that officially and begin the process of filing reports with the appropriate authorities. I felt a chill run down my spine. What kind of authorities? Adult Protective Services, for one. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult is a serious crime. And, depending on the amounts involved and the methods used, potentially the FBI if this crosses certain thresholds for fraud. The FBI. My son could be facing federal charges. Jennifer must have heard something in my silence, but her voice softened. Mrs. Hartley, I know this is difficult, but you need to understand the severity of what's happened here. Someone forged your signature on legal documents to steal a substantial amount of money from you. That's not a family disagreement. That's a crime. I know, I whispered. I just never thought I'd be in this position with my own child. I'm sorry, Jennifer said, and she sounded like she meant it. Can I ask you something? Over the past 18 months, has Marcus been giving you money for living expenses? The cover letter that came with the modification request said he'd be managing your expenses directly from the trust distributions. I thought about the past year and a half. Marcus and Vivian had taken over all the household bills. They'd told me not to worry about money, that they were taking care of everything. I'd been relieved at the time, grateful not to have to worry about the rising property taxes and maintenance costs. But Marcus had never given me money directly. No monthly allowance, no expense account, nothing. He'd simply told me everything was taken care of. No, I said. He hasn't given me anything. He took over the household expenses, but that was supposedly coming from his own income. So the money he claimed he was using for your care has actually been spent on what? Renovations to my house, investments in his business ventures, funding his lifestyle. The words tasted bitter. Mrs. Hartley, this is worse than I thought. Not only did he forge your signature and redirect trust funds, but he also falsified the purpose of those funds. That's multiple counts of fraud. We arranged to meet Monday morning at 9. After I hung up, I sat staring at my phone, processing everything. The situation was bigger than I'd realized, more serious, with consequences that would extend far beyond a family argument. My son could go to prison. The thought should have filled me with horror or guilt, but I felt strangely numb. Maybe I was in shock. Or maybe some part of me had already accepted that Marcus had made his choices and now he would face the consequences. Digging deeper. I spent the rest of Saturday in my room going through every piece of financial documentation I could find. Robert had been meticulous about record keeping, and I'd kept everything after he died, even things I didn't fully understand at the time. In the bottom drawer of my dresser, in a locked box I hadn't opened in months, I found Robert's personal files, his will, insurance policies, business documents, and a leather journal I'd never looked at closely. The journal was filled with Robert's handwriting, notes and thoughts about various projects and plans. I flipped through it slowly, and near the end, dated March 2015, I found an entry that made my breath catch. Set up the trust today. $500,000 from the Commercial Street property sale. Jim Henderson says if I invest conservatively, it should grow to about $800K by the time I'm 70. That's enough to take care of Ellie if something happens to me. The distribution schedule gives her the majority, like it should. She's sacrificed so much for this family. Marcus is successful now, making good money, but Ellie put her whole life on hold to support my business and raise our son. She deserves security and independence. Told Marcus about the trust last month. He seemed happy for his mother. Said it was a good plan. I trust him to look out for her if I'm not around. I read that last line 3 times, each reading more painful than the last. Robert had told Marcus about the trust. Marcus had known for 9 years that his father had set aside money specifically to ensure I'd be financially secure. He'd known the money was meant for me, that it was meant to give me independence and dignity. And he's stolen it anyway. I pressed the journal to my chest and let myself cry for a few minutes, mourning not just the loss of money, but the loss of the son I thought I'd raised. The Marcus who sat at the same kitchen table doing homework when I helped him with math problems wouldn't have done this. The Marcus who cried at his father's funeral and promised to take care of me wouldn't have done this. But that Marcus was gone, if he'd ever really existed. The man downstairs, the one who had forged my signature and spent my money and let his wife treat me like he he'd help, was a stranger. When the tears stopped, I turned to my laptop and started doing research. I needed to understand exactly what Marcus and Vivian had been doing with the money, and I needed documentation that would stand up in court if it came to that. I started with the obvious, the renovation costs. Marcus had mentioned that the work had ballooned beyond initial estimates. I searched my email for any correspondence about the renovations and found what I was looking for in messages from early 2023. The original estimate from the contractor, a company called Premier Home Solutions, had been $95,000 for the kitchen remodel and third-floor master suite conversion. But I found subsequent invoices showing the final cost had been $187,000, nearly double the original quote. I dug deeper, looking at the itemized charges, top-of-the-line appliances, custom cabinetry, imported tile, a spa bathtub that cost $12,000 alone. These weren't necessary renovations, they were luxury upgrades. And Marcus had paid for all of it with my money his father had set aside to ensure I'd never have to worry about having a roof over my head or food on my table. Next, I researched the Lake Oswego Hotel project. A quick Google search turned up several articles about Laurent Luxury Properties' plans to build a new boutique hotel on the lakefront. The project was estimated at $45 million, with construction set to begin in early 2025. One article specifically mentioned Marcus. Marcus Hartley, senior partner at Donovan & Associates and son-in-law to Catherine Laurent, will serve as lead architect on the project. Hartley has invested significantly in the development, demonstrating his commitment to the Laurent family business. Invested significantly, with money he'd stolen from his own mother. I found more articles, press releases, planning commission documents. Marcus's name was everywhere, positioned as a key player in what was being called the most ambitious Laurent Properties project in a decade. His entire career advancement was built on fraud. The weekend of silence. The rest of Saturday and all of Sunday passed in strange silence. I stayed in my room, venturing downstairs only once on Saturday evening to get a glass of water. I heard Marcus and Vivian moving around the house, heard low conversations I couldn't quite make out, heard the front door opening and closing as they came and went. No one knocked on my door. No one tried to talk to me. I ordered food delivery on Sunday, having it left on the front porch so I wouldn't have to interact with anyone. I ate in my room, continued my research, and made detailed notes of everything I was discovering. Sunday evening, around 7, my phone rang. Catherine Laurent. "Eleanor," she said without preamble, "I've spent the weekend reviewing the documents you sent and making inquiries. I need to meet with you tomorrow morning before you meet with your financial advisor. What did you find? It's better discussed in person. Can you meet with me at my office at 8? I'm at the Laurent corporate headquarters downtown." I agreed and hung up, feeling a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. Catherine Laurent didn't strike me as someone who wasted time on unnecessary meetings. If she wanted to see me in person, she'd discovered something significant. That night, I finally slept, exhausted from 2 days of investigation and emotional turmoil. But my dreams were troubled, filled with images of Robert looking disappointed and Marcus as a child, back when I still believed I was raising someone honest and kind. Catherine's office. Monday morning, I dressed in my best business attire, a gray pantsuit I'd bought years ago for a company event at Robert's construction firm. I did my makeup carefully, pinned my hair back in a neat bun, and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like someone who meant business. Good. I slipped out of the house at 7:15 before Marcus and Vivian were awake. I didn't leave a note. I didn't owe them an explanation of where I was going or what I was doing. Laurent corporate headquarters occupied the top 3 floors of a downtown high-rise with views of Mount Hood on clear days. The lobby was all marble and glass, with the Laurent logo, an elegant script L, displayed prominently behind the reception desk. "Eleanor Hartley to see Catherine Laurent," I told the receptionist, a young woman with an impeccable manicure and a professional smile. She made a quick call, then directed me to the elevator. "Top floor, suite 3000. Mrs. Laurent is expecting you." The elevator opened directly into a reception area that screamed quiet wealth, original artwork on the walls, leather furniture, fresh flowers. A different receptionist, this one an older man with kind eyes, greeted me by name and led me to Catherine's office. Catherine stood as I entered, coming around her massive desk to shake my hand. She was dressed in a charcoal suit with a silk blouse, every inch the successful businesswoman. "Eleanor, thank you for coming. Please, sit." She gestured to a seating area by the windows, 2 chairs facing each other across a low table. "Coffee? Tea?" "Coffee would be wonderful, thank you." She poured from a carafe that had been waiting on the table, then settled into the chair across from me, holding her own cup with both hands. "I'm going to be direct," she said. "I've reviewed all the documentation you sent, and I've had my legal team look into Marcus's financial history, particularly as it relates to his involvement with Laurent Properties." She set down her coffee cup and pulled a folder from the table, opening it to reveal several documents. Marcus has represented himself as having significant personal wealth when negotiating his role in the Lake Oswego project. He provided documentation showing assets of approximately $750,000, which justified his $200,000 investment and his position as lead architect.
She slid a paper across to me. It was a personal financial statement with Marcus's name at the top, dated 6 months ago. I scanned the document. It showed the house valued at $650,000 with no mortgage, investment accounts totaling $180,000, business equity of $120,000. The total assets added up to nearly $1 million. "This is fraudulent," I said immediately. "The house is in my name, not his. He doesn't own it." "I'm aware," Catherine said. "I had our attorneys pull the property records this morning. The deed shows Eleanor Margaret Hartley as the sole owner, has since 1995. There's no joint ownership, no transfer of title, nothing that would justify Marcus claiming the house as his asset." "What about the investment accounts?" Catherine pulled out another document. I had someone check. The accounts he listed here correspond to the trust distributions he's been receiving. He's essentially listed your stolen money as his own assets. The audacity of it took my breath away. He'd stolen my money, then used it to inflate his net worth, which he then used to secure a high-profile position on a major project? "There's more," Catherine continued. "The $200,000 he invested in the Lake Oswego project, it came from a home equity line of credit he took out on your house 6 months ago." I stared at her. "He took out a loan against my house?" "A $250,000 line of credit using forged documents that claimed he was the owner. The bank didn't do sufficient due diligence because the loan-to-value ratio was conservative, and Marcus presented himself as a senior partner at a prestigious architectural firm with significant assets. My house. He used my house as collateral for a loan to invest in his career advancement." "How is that even possible?" I asked, my voice shaking. "How could a bank approve a loan without verifying ownership?" "It shouldn't be possible, and that bank is going to have serious problems once this comes to light," Catherine said grimly. "But it happened. Marcus has been running a sophisticated fraud operation using your identity, your assets, and your trust fund to build his career and lifestyle." She pulled out more documents, laying them out one by one like cards in a damning hand. He used trust distributions to pay for renovations that increased the appraised value of the house. He then used that inflated value to justify the home equity loan. He invested that loan in the hotel project, which secured his position as lead architect. That position, combined with his fabricated net worth, made him attractive to other potential clients and partners. "It's a house of cards," I said slowly. "Built on fraud, forgery, and theft from his own mother," Catherine agreed. "Eleanor, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about your family anymore. Laurent Properties has significant liability exposure here. If it becomes public that our lead architect on a $45 million project got his position through fraud and misrepresentation, we could face lawsuits from investors, challenges from competitors, regulatory scrutiny." "What are you saying?" Catherine looked at me directly. "I'm saying that as of this morning, Marcus Hartley is no longer associated with Laurent Properties in any capacity. I've already had our attorneys draft termination documents and contract cancellations. He will receive notification within the hour." "You're firing him from the Lake Oswego project." "I'm severing all ties between my family's company and your son, yes. But Eleanor, I'm also here to offer you something." She pulled out a final document and slid it across to me. "This is a proposal. Laurent Properties will cover all your legal expenses in pursuing criminal and civil action against Marcus. We'll provide you with the best attorneys money can buy. In exchange, when this becomes public, which it will, you'll make clear that the Laurent family had no knowledge of Marcus's fraudulent activities and took immediate action once they came to light." I looked at the document, then back at Catherine. "You want me to help protect your family's reputation?" "I want to help you get justice while protecting my family's business, yes. But Eleanor, I'm also offering this because what happened to you was wrong. My daughter participated in humiliating and isolating you while benefiting from stolen money. That's not how I raised her, and it's not behavior I'll defend or enable." "You're willing to turn against your own daughter?" Catherine's expression hardened. "I'm willing to hold my daughter accountable for her choices. There's a difference. Vivian is an adult who made decisions that have consequences, just as Marcus is an adult who made decisions that have consequences." She stood and walked to the window, looking over the city. "I built this company from nothing," she said quietly. "My husband and I worked 20-hour days for years to make Laurent Properties what it is today. We built our reputation on integrity, on delivering quality, on treating people fairly. I will not let my daughter destroy that because she wanted a bigger house and a more prestigious lifestyle." She turned back to me. "So yes, I'm offering you resources to pursue this legally, but I'm also doing it because it's the right thing to do. You're a 70-year-old woman who was systematically exploited by people you trusted. You deserve justice." I stood and walked over to her, extending my hand. "Then we have a deal, Mrs. Laurent."
She shook my hand firmly. "Call me Catherine. And Eleanor, when this is over, when the legal battles are done and the dust has settled, I hope you'll consider letting me help you get your house back in order. Not with my daughter living there, obviously, but as your home again." "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. As I left her office and headed to my meeting with Jennifer Moss at Westbridge Financial, I felt something I hadn't felt since Robert died. I felt powerful, not in control of everything, but in control of myself, of my choices, of my future. Marcus and Vivian had tried to erase me, to make me invisible and inconsequential. They were about to learn what a terrible mistake that was. I left Catherine's office at 8:45 a.m. and drove directly to my meeting with Jennifer Moss at Westbridge Financial. My phone had been buzzing in my purse throughout the meeting with Catherine, but I'd ignored it. Now, sitting in my car in the parking garage, I finally looked. 17 missed calls from Marcus, 12 text messages, 3 voicemails. I didn't listen to the voicemails or read the texts. Whatever panic he was experiencing now was nothing compared to what was coming. Jennifer was waiting for me in a private conference room, along with another woman she introduced as Patricia Vance, Westbridge's compliance officer. The original documents were spread across the table, each one sealed in a protective sleeve. "Miss Hartley," Patricia said, her expression grave. "We need to verify the signature on these modification forms. Can you examine them carefully and tell us if this is your signature?" I studied each document, comparing the forged signature to my real one on the original trust papers. The differences were subtle but clear once you knew what to look for. The slant was slightly off, the pressure of the pen strokes uneven. Someone had practiced, but not perfectly. "This is not my signature," I said clearly. "I never signed these documents. I never authorized any changes to the trust distribution." Patricia nodded and made notes. "I need to inform you that we'll be filing a report with Adult Protective Services and referring this matter to law enforcement. The forgery of financial documents involving this amount of money is a serious felony." "I understand." Jennifer leaned forward. "Mrs. Hartley, there's something else you should know. When Marcus submitted these documents 18 months ago, he also provided a letter from a physician stating that you were experiencing early cognitive decline and needed assistance managing your affairs." My blood ran cold. "What physician?" "A Dr. Nathan Westbrook. The letter stated that you'd been his patient for 6 months and that he recommended you have a family member assist with complex financial decisions." "I've never heard of Dr. Nathan Westbrook. I've been seeing the same doctor for 15 years, Dr. Sarah Chen at Portland Family Medicine." Patricia pulled out another document. "We verified Dr. Westbrook's credentials this morning. He's a real physician, licensed in Oregon, practices internal medicine in Beaverton. But when we called his office, they have no record of you ever being a patient." "So Marcus forged a doctor letter too?" "It appears that way. We've already contacted Dr. Westbrook's office. They're reviewing their records to determine if the letter is completely fabricated or if their letterhead was stolen and misused." I sat back in my chair, trying to process the scope of Marcus's deception. It wasn't just a forged signature on a single document. It was a systematic fraud involving multiple fabricated pieces of evidence, all designed to paint me as mentally incompetent and in need of his help. "There's more," Jennifer said quietly. "I pulled the records of every interaction we had with Marcus over the past 18 months. He called our office monthly to check on the trust balance and confirm distributions. Each time, he told our staff that you were doing well, but preferred to let him handle the confusing financial stuff." She slid a log of phone calls across to me. Dates, times, notes from each conversation. Marcus creating a narrative of a loving son caring for his declining mother, all while stealing from her. "What happens now?" I asked. Patricia outlined the process. The financial institution would file reports with law enforcement and Adult Protective Services. They would freeze the trust and launch an internal investigation. They would work with law enforcement to document the fraud and recover whatever funds could be recovered. "The criminal investigation will take time," she warned. "Months, possibly longer. Financial crimes are complex, and prosecutors want airtight cases. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about Catherine's offer of legal support. "I have resources," I said, "and I'm not going anywhere." The return home. It was nearly noon when I finally drove back to the house. My house. I kept reminding myself of that as I pulled into the driveway. No matter what Marcus and Vivian had done, no matter how they'd treated me, the house was still legally mine. Marcus's car was in the driveway. So was an unfamiliar black sedan I didn't recognize. I steeled myself and walked through the front door. Voices came from the living room. Marcus, Vivian, and a man I'd never seen before, all standing in various poses of distress. Marcus's face was red and blotchy, like he'd been crying. Vivian looked furious. The stranger, a man in his 50s wearing an expensive suit, turned as I entered. "Mrs. Hartley, I presume," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Richard Donovan, senior partner at Donovan and Associates." I shook his hand warily. "Mr. Donovan."
He's been having a very enlightening conversation with your son, and I understand there are some serious legal issues involving fraud and misrepresentation. That's correct.
Marcus stepped forward, his face desperate. Mom, please, I can explain everything. If we could just talk privately. No, I said simply. I'm done with private conversations where you manipulate and lie to me. Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of everyone. Richard Donovan cleared his throat. Perhaps I should excuse myself. No, I said again. You should stay. You should hear what kind of man you made a senior partner. I looked at Marcus directly, and I saw him flinch from something in my expression. Your father set up a trust to take care of me after he died. $847,000, meant to ensure I'd never have to worry about money or depend on anyone. You knew about it. He told you about it 9 years ago. Marcus opened his mouth to speak, but I held up a hand. You forged my signature to redirect the trust distributions to yourself. You stole over $120,000 from me. You fabricated a letter from a doctor claiming I had cognitive decline. You took out a $250,000 loan against my house using forged documents. You used all of that stolen money to fund renovations, investments, and a lifestyle you couldn't actually afford. I turned to Richard Donovan. He used my stolen money to make himself appear wealthy enough to invest in the Lake Oswego Hotel project. Everything about his financial position was a lie. Richard's face had gone from curious to horrified. Marcus, is this true? I can pay it all back, Marcus said desperately. I just need time. It's already too late for that, I said. Catherine Laurent fired you from all Laurent Properties projects this morning. Westbridge Financial has filed reports with law enforcement and Adult Protective Services. The banks that approved your fraudulent loans are being notified. Within 24 hours, this will be a criminal investigation. Vivian finally spoke, her voice shaking with rage. You vindictive bitch! You're going to destroy his entire career over money? We're family! I looked at her, this woman who had systematically erased me from my own home, who had fed me leftovers while celebrating with important guests, who had treated me like an inconvenience to be managed. Family, I repeated softly. You excluded me from my own son's celebration dinner. You told the caterers I could eat leftovers in the kitchen like a dog. You isolated me, humiliated me, and benefited from money stolen from me, all while making me feel like I should be grateful for your charity. I turned back to Marcus. Your father worked himself to death, building something to leave us. He wanted me to be secure, independent, dignified. You took that away from me. You forged my signature. You lied about my mental capacity. You used my home as collateral for your schemes. And then you let your wife treat me like I was nothing. Mom, I'm sorry. I don't care if you're sorry, I said, and I was surprised by how calm my voice sounded. I care about justice. I care about making sure you face consequences for what you've done. And I care about making sure no one ever has to go through what you put me through. Richard Donovan cleared his throat. Marcus, I think you need to understand that as of this moment, you're suspended from the firm pending investigation. Given the severity of these allegations, if they're proven true, we'll have no choice but to terminate your partnership and report you to the State Bar Association. Richard, please, Marcus began. Save it, Richard said curtly. I've built my firm's reputation over 30 years. I will not have it destroyed because one of my partners is a thief and a fraud. Mrs. Hartley, you have my full support in pursuing this legally. If you need testimony or documentation from the firm, you'll have it. He nodded to me and walked out, leaving Marcus standing there looking like his world had collapsed, which, I suppose, it had. The aftermath. The next 72 hours were a blur of police interviews, meetings with lawyers, and phone calls with various financial institutions. Catherine made good on her promise, providing me with a top-tier legal team that moved with impressive speed. Marcus and Vivian moved out of the house on Wednesday, taking only their personal belongings. The renovations, the furniture, the expensive appliances they'd installed, all of it stayed, purchased with my stolen money and therefore mine by right. I watched from my bedroom window as they loaded boxes into a moving truck, Vivian's face tight with fury, Marcus moving like a man in a daze. I felt no satisfaction in watching them leave, no triumph, just a deep, aching sadness for what could have been, for the son I'd thought I was raising, for the family I'd thought we were. On Thursday, Adult Protective Services sent a caseworker named Maria Rodriguez to check on me. She was a warm woman in her 40s who treated me with respect and genuine concern. "How are you doing, Mrs. Hartley?" she asked as we sat in my living room. My living room now. Truly mine again. "I'm okay," and I was surprised to realize it was true. Better than I've been in years, actually. "That's common," Maria said. "Victims of financial exploitation often report feeling relief once the abuse stops, even though the legal process ahead is stressful." "I'm not a victim," I said firmly. "Not anymore." She smiled. "No, you're a survivor, and you're very brave for reporting this." The criminal investigation moved forward with the efficiency that comes from having extensive documentation. The forged signatures were verified by forensic experts, the fabricated doctor letter was confirmed as fraudulent, the home equity loan fraud was documented.